When you hear the names of Germany's Panzer commanders, you think Rommel, Guderian, maybe Manstein. Hermann Hoth commanded a panzer group larger than Rommel's entire Afrika Korps. You have barely heard of him. His nickname was Papa, not because he was gentle, but because he treated his soldiers like professionals, not cannon fodder. While Guderian wrote memoirs and Rommel chased headlines, Hoth solved a problem that broke most panzer leaders: how to keep tanks moving when fuel, roads, and weather all said no. He commanded the first all-mechanized army in history to outrun its own supply system and still win. And he did it twice. Hoth started as a cavalry officer, but by the mid-1920s he was writing manuals for a weapon that did not yet officially exist. He rejected the idea that tanks should move in massive, unwieldy waves. Instead, he argued for small, aggressive Kampfgruppen, battle groups that made their own decisions. In France, his Panzer Corps covered 150 miles in 5 days. That does not sound impressive until you realize each tank needed a ton of fuel a day, and the only gas stations were captured French depots. His overlooked talent was logistics. He personally signed off every fuel allocation. That was unusual for a 3-star general. One of his standing orders was that no formation advanced beyond a quarter of its fuel remaining. It might sound a bit cautious, but honestly, it saved his command 3 times from encirclement. In the first week of Barbarossa, Hoth's 3rd Panzer Group managed to capture the bridge at Vilnius intact. The Soviets had demolition charges all wired up, but they never detonated them because Hoth's forward detachment actually arrived 2 hours ahead of schedule. That speed, well, it became a problem. By August, his tanks had advanced 400 miles, while his supply trucks were still 200 miles behind. Hoth solved this by halting for 3 days, not to rest, but to send every second tank back to fetch its own fuel. The human limit here was mechanical. The Panzer III's final drive was designed for 3,000 kilometers. Hoth's tanks had done 4,500 by September. His mechanics worked 12-hour shifts just to keep half the battalion rolling. Then came the Rasputitsa, the mud season. Vehicles that moved at 25 miles an hour on roads dropped to 2 miles an hour off-road. Fuel consumption tripled. Hoth ordered his entire Panzer Group onto one paved highway and rotated units forward in sequence. Winter arrived. Temperatures dropped to -40. Oil turned to grease. Tracks froze solid overnight. Hoth's solution was brutal. Keep engines running around the clock. Idling burned fuel they did not have, but restarting a frozen engine took 6 hours. He lost more men to frostbite and evacuation failures than to enemy fire in December. That is not an excuse. It is the reality of commanding machines in a climate that does not care about your timetable. By 1943, Hoth had developed a doctrine of defensive mobility, counterattacking Soviet breakthroughs with small tank groups rather than massed armor, preserving strength while inflicting cost. The Red Army later copied this method in 1944. After the war, Hoth served 3 years in Landsberg prison for war crimes, specifically the treatment of Soviet prisoners under his command. He never denied responsibility. He also never fully explained it. His military legacy is clean. His moral legacy is not. Serious students of armored warfare have to hold both truths at once. The lesson of Hermann Hoth is not about tactics or technology. It is about the gap between what leaders plan and what humans endure. Every modern armored commander still studies Hoth's fuel calculations. The physics of moving 50 tons of steel have not changed. Diesel weighs the same as gasoline did. In Ukraine today, tank units still outrun their supply lines. They still freeze in winter. They still advance until the fuel gauge reads empty. Hoth learned that lesson in 1941. It gets relearned every generation. Papa Hoth outlived almost all of his Panzer group. He died in a small German town, writing his memoirs, rarely interviewed, never a celebrity. His story matters because it is uncomfortable. The most effective Panzer leader of the Eastern Front was not a genius or a monster. He was a competent professional whose competence served an inexcusable cause. Subscribe to War Machiner and share this if you value history that goes deeper.